Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. We're your hosts, Bull and P, and it's sign day, so we're going to be talking about all of the prospects that we got in the 2024 class, whether it be from the high school ranks or from the transfer portal. And Tennessee finished number 13 according to 24/7 Sports as far as the high school ranks, and then in the transfer portal, we finished at number 21. So I think that we're doing all right. Now, obviously, if this was the end-all, be-all, if what 24/7 Sports said was gold, then we wouldn't be doing a good enough job. I think that we need to be top 5 every single season, in this category to be able to have a championship caliber type of team. This is something that we know back in the day with Coach Foreman, we was always, like top 3. We always finished top 3, but the whole landscape of college football has changed dramatically. Now, let me also address something else, because I know somebody's going to say this in the comments section. This hat right here, this is an Atlanta Braves hat, and this shirt is an Atlanta Falcons shirt. So all of this is because we are introducing Raheem Morris today as our head coach of the Falcons, and it's Black History Month. He's the first Black head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. So that's all that I'm showing right here. It's nothing to do with Georgia or nothing like that. This is the only time that you'll ever see me in red and black is if it's for my Falcons. But moving on forward, okay, number one thing that we need to talk about, I think, in this video is yesterday we had a big deal happen with the court systems, and I'm going to pull this graphic up for y'all real quick. All right, so this is a tweet, obviously, from Tennessee's Attorney General, and it says, today a federal judge said Tennessee and Virginia are likely to prevail in their antitrust suit against the NCAA. Although the court declined to issue a TRO, which is a temporary restraining order, the judge reasoned the NCAA can be held monetarily liable for any harms, thus negating the need for a TRO. All right, so we talked about this off air, right? Like offline, but it was a couple of people who came out that was lawyers. And again, like we always say on this channel, we're not lawyers. I don't think we can emphasize that enough. But what he said was he didn't think that Tennessee would get that TRO. And the reason is it's very difficult to prove monetary harm to, this entire situation versus the NCAA. And, I actually think that this bodes well for Tennessee, because basically what the judge is saying is, hey, you know what? We don't need to issue this TRO, because if they do pursue what they're talking about pursuing, and the they is the NCAA, then y'all will be able to sue the britches off of these dudes in court. And he said that, hey, Tennessee's likely to win their suit versus the NCAA based off of the Sherman Act. So I do think that things will definitely be changing coming up on the 13th. A lot of people have been asking questions, about this entire situation. And again, we're not lawyers, but just from what I see, from what I've read, from my understanding of everything that's been going on, it sounds like the judge is pretty much saying, hey, I don't need to do this TRO, because once the court date comes up on the 13th, y'all are going to get what y'all want. And he's basically warning the NCAA, don't be trying to pursue any, penalties versus the actual University of Tennessee and their players, talking about Nico, because if you do, you're going to be in really big trouble. But P, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much exactly what you said. We didn't get the temporary restraining order, which, would have been cool, I guess, but it was never really our end-all, be-all. It was kind of, to quote someone on Twitter I seen earlier today, it's kind of like a last-second Hail Mary, or, kind of the end of half Hail Mary. But then the judge went out and said, well, you didn't convert that Hail Mary, but you guys are still up 20-0 going into the half. You guys should still win this game. You know what I mean? So, he pretty much come out and said, hey, the evidence that I have presented before me right now says Tennessee's going to freaking blow you guys out whenever it comes time to it. And so, I still feel great about it. Like we said, the restraining order, it would have been nice to have, but it was never really the main goal that we're trying to achieve. And so we're still on pace to get this thing done. And, you talk about the Sherman Act, and that's exactly what this is. You can't limit these players' ability to make money. You can't put a cap on the money that they can make with your laws and with your rules and things like that. So, they're violating that, and we're taking them to court, and hopefully on the 13th, I'm not sure exactly what that hearing is going to determine or decide necessarily, but I think that the information that we have right now coming from the judge, he's pretty much saying that on the 13th that hearing should go in Tennessee's favor. So just excited for the 13th to get here.
Yeah, and so actually something else, he pretty much said based off of the evidence that we currently have. So currently, you have to really pay attention to those little small key words that they throw out there. But him
Mm.
saying that is basically like, man, look, NCAA, if you don't have any more information to bring to the table than what you gave to us initially, y'all are going to lose. So again, Tennessee's in a really good spot right there. And just something else to add to this, we haven't seen any more states join into the lawsuit that Tennessee, filed against the NCAA. But I did see something that came out yesterday talking about Oregon. They kind of came together, and this is the state of Oregon, right? They kind of came together and they said, hey, what can we do to stop the NCAA from infringing on these NIL, rights and all that type of stuff? And basically, what they're saying in a nutshell is we're going to do something where we're going to follow our state law. We're going to make some state laws, or they are, wanting to make some state laws to prevent the NCAA from being able to enforce NIL rules. And I think that we'll see a whole lot of that moving forward. Obviously, there are several lawsuits versus the NCAA right now, and they're just in a losing battle. So for those of y'all who may be a little bit concerned about the news that came out yesterday, just know that that was pretty much status quo. Okay, that's pretty much the way that things had to go, and we're still trending in the right direction. I don't think that Nico will miss any time this season. I don't think that we're going to be getting the death penalty. That's something that's been thrown out there as well. Tennessee's going to be just fine, and college football is trending more towards, especially major college football, towards being an amateur league for the NFL. And it's kind of pretty much already been that, but it's going to be, I guess, a little bit more set in stone. And it's going to be, hey, the SEC, Big Ten leagues, that's where the best of the best of the best play. And, I think that the NFL scouts, coaches, GMs will be pulling from that league first. And then we'll have different tiers of, I don't want to necessarily call them lesser leagues, but just, like a lower caliber of leagues. It's kind of similar to baseball and P. For those of y'all who don't know, P was a phenomenal baseball player. But it's kind of like, going from the major leagues, to, triple A, double A, single A, right? I think it's going to be very similar to that moving forward. And I think that it's probably necessary. I do see a whole lot of benefit in this type of a structure. Obviously, there's going to be good and bad with everything, but you have to embrace change because the world is forever changing. And again, let's just make sure that we can, be able to influence the change to come for the better. Now, with all that out the way, let's go on ahead and jump into the 2024 recruiting class for our volunteers. All right, so we're going to start it right here with the transfer portal players because I did just make a video talking about my top 10 high school players in the class of 2024. So the first one on this list, and again, this is from 24/7 Sports, is Jackson Moy, 6'2", 300 pounds. He's a transfer from Stanford. He plays defensive tackle. And P, this is a guy that we said, hey, well, not maybe even necessarily just him, but we said, hey, we need some more defensive tackle depth in this class. But what are your thoughts off of Jackson Moy?
I think he's definitely a quality body. Comes in, about 6'3", 305, 310. Pretty athletic guy, shows good burst off the ball. Just want to see him continue to grow his consistency and learn how to strain. And we've seen Coach Garner take these top prospects before and get the most out of them. We talk about Omar Norman a lot as a guy that came in who, didn't necessarily love his film, or I know you didn't really like it coming in. And we saw getting some time under Coach G, playing with those other guys next to him, Big O and East and those guys. He kind of started to pick up his habits and became a real force and one of the better players on the entire defense last season. I'm not saying that Moore is going to be that. Definitely not 2024. But I think he's more of a depth piece long term, and obviously gives you another body to rotate in. If those big guys need to spell, but he's definitely a guy you're looking to see him really pop onto the scene in 25 and beyond.
Absolutely. So you said a whole lot right there. Let me just touch on a couple of things because this is something else that's been trending with all of Vol Nation, and that's Coach Garner going back to Auburn. What I've heard, okay, this is what I heard directly from Austin Price on VolQuest, is that Coach Garner is going to be staying with our volunteers. And P, as you just talked about, that's a huge deal for us because he does a great job of developing these defensive line prospects. And as we're kind of going through all of this, let's keep in mind that Jordan Ross, I think he was like a 3-star at first on 24/7 Sports, which is what we go by. And we see that he's one of, if not the best pass rusher in the entire country. And I think that a lot of that has to do with Coach Garner. So again, man, just like you had just said, P, I didn't really like Omar Norman Lott's film, and it wasn't that I didn't see, the skill set, because you could definitely see that, but he didn't really have that motor. It was like he had a lack of drive to want to make plays. And sometimes you got to go to a different place, get like a little bit of a change of scenery, and then you get back motivated again. And Omar Norman showed that. And, I'm thinking he's going to have a great breakout season coming up. And also, Peter, like you said, we're looking more for Jackson Moore to contribute on this roster in 25 and in 26, okay? He's not necessarily a guy that you would say he's going to contribute a lot in 2024, but it's great to at least have that depth because people do get hurt, things do happen. And I think that he's a really good option right there for us. Now let's go ahead and take it back to the list. Next player is Lance Hurd, 6'6", 340 pounds. He's a transfer from LSU, and he is definitely one of the best offensive linemen, especially in his class. He was ranked number 3 coming out of high school, and I think that he's going to be a plug-and-play guy playing left tackle for us. But, P, what are your thoughts?
Love Lance Hurd, man. Like I said, plug-and-play guy. He's coming in. He's going to be starting. Sounds like he will be the left tackle, which is huge. You have a guy to protect Nico's blind side, and you have Campbell switching over to the right side to protect his front side. But I think he's a guy, from what you heard, the guy that came on the Swain show talk about nasty, physical, athletic, the whole deal, everything you want from big, burly old lineman. I think he fits that mold, played at LSU, so he's used to the competition that he's going to be seen here in SEC. Definitely could not have hand selected or even handcrafted a better transfer portal to come in. True freshman last season, has 3 years to play. This is the best, in my opinion, the biggest pickup probably of the entire transfer portal for us this season.
Yeah, he's most definitely up there, and he actually might be the biggest because we had Gerald Mincey who said, hey, I'm coming back. Then he decides to leave. Now he's talking a whole bunch of trash on social media, and he's going to have to see us November 2nd. I don't know why he keeps bringing this up. I don't know why the media at Kentucky is enticing him to bring this up because they know that they're about to get blown out. He knows that they're about to get blown out. Bro, you're going to have to block James Pierce, Jordan Ross, and everybody else, man. Caleb Herring, Joshua Josephs. You already know these dogs that we got on this team. Why would you go out there and embarrass yourself like this? I'm just going to make a bold prediction very early on that he doesn't finish this game, and I'm not wishing, any injuries on him. I don't think he's going to get hurt, but I think I just think that he's just going to quit because he's going to get tired of getting beat over and over and over again. I don't think that it was a very smart move in a season that's pretty much your send-off season. You're about to be going on to the NFL. I think that you made a really big mistake right there. But we definitely upgraded, I believe, at the tackle positions because moving John Campbell over to the right side obviously is going to be very solid. I think he's an upgrade over Gerald Mincey from last season at the right tackle position. And then I think that Lance Hurd is an upgrade over John Campbell at the left tackle spot. And obviously we're going to have Lance Hurd for at least one more year after this one. So we'll at least see him in 2025. And obviously he's going to be able to stay throughout the tenure with Nico Iamaleava. And I'm definitely expecting some really big things from him. He's a dog. He's a beast. Run blocking, pass blocking, everything. He's an enforcer, right? The offensive linemen are supposed to be like bodyguard, body type. And that's what Lance Hurd is. He's probably going to end up being the leader of that entire room, or at least one of them. We still got Cooper, man. We still got a whole bunch of dogs. I just think that him coming in solidifies the entire front five on offense. And we're going to have a whole lot of production just because of him being added to this roster. Now let's move on to the next person. And that is Miles Kitselman, 6'5", 250 pounds. He's a transfer from Alabama. All right, so P, we've talked about this a lot leading up to this point that, hey, Tennessee got Holden Stays in. We'll talk about him in just a minute, but we needed another body because we're shorthanded at the tight end position. Bringing in a guy like Miles Kitselman, who's a veteran, who's played SEC football. He's got SEC-ready body type, and he looks like a very strong blocker. He runs good routes, but I think that it was very necessary for us to add at least one more guy that we trust to go out there if we ever get into a bind. But, P, what are your thoughts on Miles?
Yeah, man, this is another huge pickup. We talked about if Ethan Davis or Stays goes down, who's the next guy? It was looking like it was going to be Cole Harrison for a while there. Now you bring in a guy, I think he's a senior this year, 6'5", 250, has experience, played with Bama last season, played, I think, D1 AA ball before that. Has experience in college, looks like a good blocker, is a guy that you feel confident coming off the bench and being able to at least give you another blocking option. And, I think he can probably catch the ball, too. He looks like he's got some decent athleticism to him. And so I think he could be a serviceable guy in the pass game as well. But definitely like what he does in the run game. And you can't put a premium on having those type of experienced guys, especially in a position room that was kind of depleted like ours was heading into this season. But now we've kind of restocked, adding in 2 transfer portal guys, and then got 2 freshmen coming in with Christian Harris or Cole Harrison. So really like him a lot, and I think he'll be a valuable piece for us this season.
Absolutely. So he actually, I believe, came from like a junior college, and then he went to Alabama. But I most definitely get your point. He's played a whole lot of college ball, and again, he should be very, very serviceable for our Volunteers. All right, so next guy up is Jalen McMurray. He's listed at 6 feet tall, 180 pounds. He's a cornerback / defensive back body type coming out of Temple to our Volunteers. And one of the things that I heard whenever he came on his visit to Tennessee is that he came in a bit undersized. So it sounded like the staff had kind of backed off of him. But whenever I watched this film, P, I love what I saw. I mean, from a technical standpoint, his fundamentals are beautiful. He plays with that edge. He plays hard. What I love, okay, both of us played in the secondary, but what I really love to see out of secondary players is the willingness to get in on the physical part of the game. We were both wired like that, and it's kind of hard sometimes to understand some of these guys who don't want to get in on that, but he's definitely one of those guys. He may be a little bit smaller, but he will be able to definitely gain some weight once he gets on campus. Heard about him maybe playing corner or star for us. I think that he can contribute early on, and I believe that he's going to come in as a sophomore. But P, what are your thoughts on Jalen McMurray?
Yeah, I mean, I like him a lot. I think he shows some good traits on his film. Athletic guy, shows some quick twitch, good hips, fluidity, like I said, good technique. And like you said, the most important thing is willingness to get in on the physical part of the game, especially with today's game, getting the ball out to the flats quick, getting to the backside of the backfield, trying to put these DBs in one-on-one situations to defeat a block and make a tackle in space. You have to be willing to get physical. And he shows that willingness. Want to see him put on some weight and continue to get bigger, stronger, faster, better. But I think he'll do that when he gets into a big league, SEC weight room, SEC meal plan with these coaches, this strength staff. He'll continue to develop and get better. But again, another versatile piece, multi-year guy, and can play corner, can play safety. Corner nickel, maybe can play safety potentially. Probably not big enough, but probably could do it if he had to. I probably could go back there. So again, I like how we get these guys that are kind of Swiss Army knives, can do multiple things, because that just increases your depth and just makes you all around better team. So, we'll see how much he factors in this year. We got some pieces I'm excited about. So we'll see if he factors in, but definitely another piece that will be here for a few years. So he'll definitely factor in before he leaves Tennessee.
Yeah, he actually puts me in mind of a Falcons player that did play safety in KZ. And P, I know that you remember him. I think that if he did play safety, he will be very similar today. He's a little bit of an undersized guy, but he'll come down and stick you. I don't know if KZ's still playing. I think that he might have kind of got himself injured out of the league. That's the only problem with playing that physical, especially from safety. With the smaller frame, you're going to probably tend to get a little bit more injured. So I do think he's probably going to be a lot better off playing closer to the line of scrimmage and playing on the outside, at least until he can fill out. But I am expecting some pretty big things from Jalen McMurray. Next guy is Chris Brazzell, 6'5", 195 pounds. He is a transfer from Tulane. He plays the wide receiver position. Now, Chris was definitely one of my favorite players on film. Obviously, coming from last season, we know that we needed some more dynamic playmakers on the outside. And Chris is going to come in, I believe, immediately and start from day one. Don't know exactly where. Probably going to be somewhere on the outside. I think him, Brew, probably Squirrel White, and he rotates some more guys in. But Chris is a guy that we see a whole lot of explosiveness from him on film. He has great hands. He's got a whole lot of length, very long arms, and he can jump out the gym, okay? He can high point footballs. He'll win a whole lot of one-on-one matchups. But, P, what are your thoughts with Chris?
Man, love Chris, love his film, love his upside, his physical traits. Probably behind Lance Hurd, he'd be my number 2. It's tough. We got a lot of guys I really like, but he's definitely up there in that transfer portal class. I think, like you said, he's opposite Brew. And here's the thing, too. We don't, about Brew, we're hoping to God that he's the same Brew he was before the injury, but we don't know exactly how healthy he's going to be. So, it could be a deal where it's Brazzell and it's Thornton on the outside. Brew's kind of rotating in, who knows? But just it feels good to have that option, 6'5", 210 type guy, can high point, probably 4'4" type guy. Very athletic, makes tough catches, and doesn't get enough credit for how physical of a blocker he is as well. I like him a whole lot. I think he's trying to be a one-and-done guy. We'll see if we can keep him for 2 years or not. But he's a guy, man. I like him a whole heck of a lot, and he's due for a big year. I think he's going to be everything that we hoped Thornton would be last season.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? It's interesting that you're bringing up Thornton because I do think that Thornton's going to take a big jump this season. We're not talking about, necessarily our current roster, without everyone that's coming in the 24 class. But I think that we've got so many more options right now at the wide receiver position. And that bodes very well for us because this offense is pretty much predicated on a quarterback that can get the ball to his playmakers. But you need some playmakers. And playing in the SEC, okay, especially with the way that they allowed teams like Georgia to cheat and their DBs are holding guys, mugging guys, pass interference on every single play. You've got to have some people who are willing to fight for the football and be able to break through that type of holding and pass interferences. And I think that Chris Brazo is definitely one of those guys. All right, next guy is Jamad McCoy, 6 feet tall, 180 pounds. He's a transfer from Oregon State. So Jamad plays cornerback, and I love his film, okay? We've got a film breakdown of him versus Washington, which was, really probably the best wide receiving core in the entire country. They had one of the best passing offensive, if not the best in the entire country. And he did a phenomenal job. Okay. He's got prototype size, I think, for an NFL corner, 6 feet tall. He's got long arms. He moves well. He's got great fundamentals, especially at the line of scrimmage. He kind of looks a lot like the old school way of teaching football. Now, he's not always very physical at the line, but he can be. And he's actually good enough that he doesn't really need to be physical at the line of scrimmage. I love his footwork. And I've seen him play on the outside, play on the inside, play in a whole lot of different spots. He could play corner. He could play star. And I think that he's just going to add a whole lot to this roster. I do believe that he'll probably end up starting somewhere on this team next season. But P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, love his film a lot. Very athletic, very smooth, fluid athlete. Just like you said, he's a natural. He's a supernatural athlete, supernatural playmaker. I think corner, nickel, he's a pretty natural fit at either one of those positions. Or I guess star is what we call it, but pretty natural at either one of those positions. And I mean, I think, like you said, he's going to be starting somewhere. I mean, right now I'm seeing it be Ricky Gibson at one corner and then him at the other corner. And then we'll see who earns that starting star spot. But I definitely think he'll be starting for us. And he's an upgrade over the guys we had last year, not named Call had, in my opinion.
All right, so next guy is Jacoby Thomas. He's a 6'1", 200-pounder, playing safety from Middle Tennessee State. All right, now Kobe Thomas is what he likes to go by. I love his film, man. I love his passion. We did the film breakdown. I believe that was for everybody to see versus Alabama. And you can see the way that he's competing versus those guys on an SEC level. Grew up as a big Tennessee fan. He said that this was his dream offer. This was his dream school. And I'm very happy that we're able to close out on him. Again, he's going to be starting, I believe, at safety somewhere. I think it's going to end up being him and John Slaughter, but we'll see how everything plays out, especially in the spring. But, P, what are your thoughts on Kobe Thomas?
Man, I like him a lot. He puts me a lot in the mind of a Jansen Jackson. I don't know if his Davis have a similar look to him, but I just feel like the aggressiveness, kind of his attitude out there, way he plays, puts me a lot in the mind of Jansen Jackson, or even like an Alontae Taylor. Alontae Taylor kind of had that, whatever the word is you want to call it, kind of that edge to him, the way he played, you know what I mean? And I see a lot of that in him, man. You love the way he triggers. That's something I'm big on with the safeties, is when it's run or when it's a quick screen, whatever it is, how fast these guys get into the line of scrimmage. And you see, even going back to the Bama film, even some of his plays that might be negatively graded, he misses a tackle. Where is he missing it at? Line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. He's getting to the ball. And if you miss tackles fast, it allows your teammates to come in from the inside out and help clean it up for you. So I think he's going to really add something to this team. And when we have safeties that play fast like that, it just makes your whole defense so much better. And, man, he's another one that I could put up there as kind of my number 2 favorite guy. I mean, there's, I got like 3 guys tied for number 2, so he's definitely in that mix for sure.
For sure. Those are a whole lot of excellent points. I do think he's going to end up being one of the better safeties that we've had in a long time. You went all the way back to Jansen Jackson. I could see that, but for sure, I think he's going to be a lot better than what we've had since Coach Heupel and company have been up in Knoxville. All right, and the last transfer portal player is going to be Holden Stays. He's a tight end from Notre Dame, listed at 6'4", 242 pounds. All right, so Holden Stays is from the Atlanta area, just like Ethan Davis. Those will be our 2 starting tight ends. I would like to see us get into some more sets, maybe with 2, maybe like 12 personnel, and at some points, maybe even 13 personnel, because I think that we've got some tight ends that are physical enough at the point of contact, but could also go out for some routes. And I think that we could create a whole lot of mismatches from that perspective. But he shows that he can run good routes. He's got good hands. And again, he's a really good blocker. But P, what are your thoughts?
Man, I think he's going to be better than people are even giving him credit for. I think he's, you look at his measurables, about 6'5", 245. I don't know what he's clocking in the 40. he doesn't have a great necessarily get off, but once he gets moving, he's moving. So I'm sure his top speed is up there over 20 miles an hour. He can run. I think he has better hands than he gets credit for, and he's a really good blocker, in my opinion. I think in this system, with the way we spread the field out, the one-on-one matchups he'll have, I think he's due for a big year and might have the best year from a tight end we've had here in a while. I think he's going to have a really big year. Obviously, he will be splitting time with Ethan Davis, who also I expect to have a big year, but I really like Holden Stays a lot, and he'd probably be the third guy put kind of tied for number 2 behind Lance Hurd from this portal class.
All right, and P has, 3 to 4 players at his number 2 spot out of that transfer portal. So let's go on ahead and jump into the actual high school recruits. Now, Mike Matthews is listed right here at the top, okay? 6'1", 180 pounds out of Parkview High School in Lilburn, Georgia. That's an area that P and I know very well. He's a wide receiver, and I've talked a whole lot about him already. But P, what are your thoughts on Mike Matthews?
A guy that, I mean, not often you expect a true freshman coming in here and compete, but anytime you got a 5-star guy, you expect him to come in here and compete, especially when he's from Georgia and especially when he's from Gwinnett County, like where we grew up. I mean, probably some of the best football in the entire country. We talk about it, in just one county. And so you turn the film, you see that he's an absolute dog. He has all the measurables, all the tools, has the speed, has the physicality, has that, like I said, the dog, willingness to go up there, make tough catches, contested catches, will block, will do the whole deal for you. Seems like a kind of a straight arrow type of guy, no nonsense, just wants to play football and go out here and win games. So I'm excited about him, man. I think that it's going to be tough to keep him off the field as true freshman. But again, we talked about this already. We have a pretty loaded room this season. We'll see if he can crack a spot into that rotation. But I definitely like the upside with a guy like him coming in.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to say this really quickly, but something that I didn't touch on too much, in the top 10 with Mike Matthews is how good of a blocker he is. That's something that I don't hear a whole lot of these analysts talking about with these wide receivers. But obviously in our offense, that's critical. Every single one of our wide receivers can block. And I think he's going to be up there with like the Brew McCoys as far as how good of a blocker he is. And P, like I said, he's a dog. He'll go through the echo of the whistle. That's how we do it down here in the G County. You already know. So I'm very, very proud of him. I'm very happy to have him be a part of this roster. And I also do believe that he will see a lot of playing time as a true freshman. Next player is Braylon Staley, 6 feet tall, 180 pounds. He's a wide receiver as well from Strom Thurmond in Johnston, South Carolina. All right, now this is another player that I've already talked a whole lot about, P, so we'll get your thoughts on him.
Like him a lot, man. Like him almost as much as Mike Matthews. I think he's a guy that really burst onto the scene kind of after his senior film really came out. And, I mean, he's another dog, man. Just a guy that kind of has that underdog chip on his shoulder a little bit and just goes up, makes physical catches. I was watching his film. I guess he plays in South Carolina. That looks like a pretty good league, too. I mean, it's a lot of physicality out there. And he's going across the middle, taking shots, making catches, getting up, talking about it. So you like to have guys that type of edge coming to the SEC. We know we're going to Athens, we're going to Tuscaloosa, we're going to go to Death Valley, we're going to go to wherever we're going to go. You want those type of guys that ain't scared of nothing going across the middle, make plays for you. So excited about him. Not really expecting him to factor in this year. If he does, I would not be surprised. But I think he's going to be a guy 2025. He'll probably redshirt this year. 2025, he'll be a guy that is going to be making a lot of noise in 2025.
Yeah, so you know what? That's a very interesting point because I actually feel like he's a guy that could play a lot this season, especially at slot. I think if he comes in at probably number 2 right there behind Squirrel White. I mean, I just think that he's that good. I think that he is going to be that guy. And then we'll see how everything else pans out on the outside. We'll see if Mike Matthews gets some burn at slot. I think that he could play anywhere as well. But I mean, it's great to have some more wide receivers like what we used to get back in the 90s, 80s, 90s, back 70s, back when this was wide receiver okay? I'm very happy to see this staff doing that, again, especially because of the type of offense that we run. You need some dogs on the outside, and we definitely have 2 coming in this class. Next guy is Boo Carter, listed at 5'10", 184 pounds out of Bradley Central in Cleveland, Tennessee. He's an athlete. Sounds like he's probably going to be playing the star position for Tennessee, but I've said this several times. I think that he could be a very dynamic player on the offensive side of the football. P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting to see where he ends up at. I think he could play offense or defense. Seems like a pretty natural fit in there at that star position. I've been hearing some rumblings about him potentially playing safety as well. We're watching some of his full game film the other day. It was a little while ago, but it was really our first time seeing him a lot on defense. And the way he triggers on defense, we talk about Jacoby Thomas. We see that those same traits from Boo Carter. And I think anytime, like I said, you have those secondary guys that trigger fast, that condense the field fast, I mean, that just makes the whole defense that much better. So I think as good as he is on offense, I think he will be even better on the defensive side of football. So very excited about Blue Carter. And I think he will factor in as true freshman.
Next player is Peyton Lewis. He's 6'1", 198 pounds from Salem High School in Salem, Virginia. He's a running back. He saw a significant increase in his star rating nationally, and we can definitely see why. But P, I'm going to let you talk about it.
Man, I like him a whole lot, man. I seen the graphic. I think his On3 has him as the number 4 running back in the country, I want to say. And I went and I looked up the 3 guys ahead of him. And, I mean, you could see why those guys. I feel like, number 1 guy, raw, but very athletic. Number 2 guy is kind of a good mix of athletic and technique. And the number 3 guy, I think, is going to Georgia. Small little scat back type guy. His film is electric, similar to like a Noel Devine type of highlight tape, similar to that type of highlight tape. But then you look at Peyton Lewis at number 4, and he just looks like the kind of just the most well-rounded guy. His film is more so him running between the tackles, similar to what you're going to see him doing in SEC, actually having to fight through contact at the line of scrimmage, not having wide open holes. I think he's a guy that his game, from the 3 guys ahead of him, or all 3 of those guys, his game translates the most to college, in my opinion, from what I've seen. And you look at him in the All-Star game, I think it was the Under Armour game. I mean, I had to look it up and say, man, is that Peyton Lewis? He looked huge out there. Like he's about 220. So he looks like he's probably bigger than that 200 pounds right now. And so I think he's a guy that's going to play a lot this year as true freshman. And he can run too. So very excited about Peyton Lewis.
For sure. So it sounds like he's got some sort of a hernia deal. So he's going to have, I think, like a minor surgery on that. So he probably will gain a little bit of weight, right? Especially getting up on campus. Okay. Looks like he's already got a good frame, but I do think that he will probably start the season off somewhere around 220, 225. And I think that he's, honestly speaking, probably the second best running back on this roster, right there behind Cam Selden. I've actually got Dylan Sampson as number 3 personally. That's just what I have personally. Because,
you keep on sleeping on Sampson. You didn't like him last year.
No. Whoa. Hold on.
You want to put last year?
No. It's not that I'm sleeping on him. It's not that I don't like him. I love his game. I just don't like the fact of not picking up blitzes, not picking up blocks, because we've got to be able to protect our quarterback. So that's my only thing. I think that he's a baller. I think he's going to make plays. And you got to keep everything very relative, because we've got a stable of some great backs. Saying that he could potentially be number 2, I don't think that would necessarily, I mean, I guess it would be a slight to Dylan Sampson because he's the oldest in that group, but it's really not. I mean, I still think that Dylan Sampson is an NFL caliber back. I just think that our backfield is that good. I think it's that deep. And something else that you had brought up is, you see him in high school run through contact. The field is condensed a lot with the way that they run, with the types of plays that they run. It's a whole lot of tight formations. It's a whole lot of run-heavy sets and things like that. With Tennessee, we're going to be spreading it out, and he's going to have a wide-open lane most of the time to be able to run. So I think that he's going to be incredible. I think that he could potentially break some records in this offense. All right, so next guy is Jake Merklinger, 6'3", 195-pound quarterback out of Calvary Day High School in Savannah, Georgia. He's rated as a 4-star, and we actually saw him kind of go down in a lot of the rankings, and we kept on talking about we didn't really know why. I've talked about him enough, P. We want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, really my first time really going to see a lot of him, especially live, was in the Polynesian Bowl. And again, like I mentioned, kind of we talked about him earlier. I came in the second half of that game, so my first 2 series, first one was him scrambling out to his right, takes a little bit of a hit, fumbles the ball. Then my next series, I think he fumbled again on that next series, and there was a bad snap, couldn't get it. So it was my first couple of series seeing him play, my first impression of him really. Wasn't overly impressed with him. I do think he's better than what he put on film. We kind of talked about him maybe being a little nervous in that game, which he has to get those nerves under control if you're going to be the quarterback at the University of Tennessee, because every game we play is a big game. The fans are going to be breathing down your neck. You make a bad throw, they're going to be all over you about it. So you have to have thick skin, and you can't be scared of the moment. But I do think he'll be all right. He just needs time to kind of get into the college system and develop. But, hey, you can't take too long because we got George McIntyre coming right behind you. So, he may come in as true freshman and be ready to go for that number 2 spot behind Nico. So, we'll see. But I like Merklinger. Glad he's in this class.
Next player is Max Anderson, 6'5", 309 pounds. He's a tackle from Reedy High School in Frisco, Texas. All right, so we're finally back to some players that I haven't really talked about, but Max Anderson is a really good player. He's got great fundamentals. He's a guy that could play, I believe, anywhere on the offensive line. He's got prototype size for pretty much anything. He's kind of a maybe a little bit of a smaller tackle if you're talking about an NFL type of a body, but he's right there on the fringe of it. He's a dog, okay? Great in pass blocking, great in run blocking, and I think that he has a tremendous upside. I think that at some point he's going to end up being one of the fan favorites for this team. But P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like his film a lot. It's always good to get O-lineman from Texas. You know what I mean? I think it's always a good look for you. And he's a guy, watching this film, want to see him continue to get quicker, get more athletic. But obviously, a lot of things they like. Could play inside, could play outside. I probably like him a little more on the inside. We'll see how he grows, how his body develops, and kind of where we have our needs at on our roster. But I think he's a guy that will factor in. Potentially may get a little burn this year in a backup role. But definitely 2025, you expect him to be a guy that really contributes somewhere on that offensive line.
All right, next guy is William Satterwhite, 6'3", 300-pounder. He's an interior offensive lineman from Archbishop Holben in Akron, Ohio. All right, now I think that he might be the most fundamentally sound offensive lineman in this class personally, but P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love William Satterwhite. I mean, probably my favorite offensive lineman in this class. Probably one of my top 2 or 3 favorite recruits in this entire class. Like him a whole lot. I think he's a potential 5-for-5 guy. Obviously, he's not very tall for an O-lineman, so probably wouldn't want to play him a tackle, but he could do it. I mean, like I said, technically sound, fundamentally hard-nosed guy. Strikes me as a very intellectual guy. This seems like a very natural center. I mean, I think that he's poised to come in here and pick up where Cooper Mays left off after this season coming up. So very excited about him. And don't be surprised, if maybe we move him around. Maybe, it just depends. He's a guy who can play anywhere we need him to play. So he'll play wherever he's most needed, but most likely will be center in 2025.
Next guy is Kellen Lindstrom, 6'5", 235-pound defensive end. He's from Glendale High School in Springfield, Missouri. Now, this is a guy that whenever I first watched his film, I compared him to a Will Overstreet, and I sincerely mean that, okay? I know that that's a very tall order. Okay, that's a tall task, but I do think that he's that type of a player. His burst off of the ball is tremendous. He's got very long arms, and he's strong at the point of contact. And, again, he plays with a really high motor. So I think that he's going to make a whole lot of plays for Tennessee. And I personally would not be surprised if he got thrown into the mix early on as a true freshman. P, what are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I like him a lot. Like I said, strong guy. I love the Will Overstreet comparison. I think he's a guy we want to see him maybe put on another 20, 30 pounds, get up to about 265, 270, kind of play that Tyler Barron role, be that strong side DN. I think he fits that very well because he's also athletic. Can bend, has good get off the ball, has a relentless motor. So I like him a whole lot, and it's another great piece that this class went evaluated. And I think he's also a little bit underrated and probably do a lot better than people are expecting. With big names like Jordan Ross, guys like that coming in, people are sleeping on Lindstrom. I think he's going to make some noise too. Maybe not as a freshman, but definitely he'll be one of the fan favorites before he leaves.
Absolutely, and he's another one of the guys that took a gigantic leap forward in the rankings, and we kind of called it out very early on watching this film saying, hey, he's definitely underrated because he was a 3-star. He's now a 4-star on 24/7 Sports. All right, now we got Marcus Gorey Jr., 6', 176-pound athlete. He's really a defensive back. He also was Boo Carter's teammate in high school as seniors. He played at Bradley Central in Cleveland, Tennessee. Now, Marcus Gorey is a guy that I think is very underrated, but he could play a multitude of positions in the SEC in that secondary. He could be a great corner. He could be a star guy, or he could play, I believe, either one of the safeties. Now, if he's going to be moving back to safety, he's going to have to gain a little bit more weight. I think he may fit in a little bit better at star, but you love his fundamentals. You love his footwork. You love his willingness to get in on tackles. We keep on talking about this with our secondary guys. Something that y'all will notice is that every single one of the guys that we either got out of high school or in that transfer portal are guys that can play man-to-man coverage. They've got great length, and they're also very physical. They're all dogs. So I do expect for the defense moving forward to take a gigantic leap forward from what we've seen in previous seasons. But P, what's your thoughts on Marcus Gorey Jr.?
Man, I'm a huge Marcus Gorey fan. Again, another guy. I played Blue Carter, and I really gained my appreciation for him when I watched the full game film. Because then you see what he plays every single play, not just plays out on his highlight tape. And if you guys want to treat yourselves, go on YouTube, watch Bradley Central High School football, 2023, and look for him, number 8, I think he wore. He flies around, close to the line of scrimmage type of guy, athletic, physical. You can tell him, Blue Carter, you could tell it was their team. You know what I mean? Like, it was their team. They ran the show. They caught the shots. And so anytime you get those type of guys that are kind of like those alphas on your roster, that's you love to see that. So he's a guy, like you said, I like him a lot at star because of his cover ability and his physicality, his aggressiveness. Like him at star, but could play anywhere. Could play corner, play safety, could do it all. So excited about him. We'll see how long it takes him gain the weight he needs and to factor in, but I think he has a bright future of Tennessee.
All right, next guy is J.C. Perry, 6'5", 278-pounder. He's an offensive tackle, and he's from Middle Tennessee Christian School in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Now, J.C. Perry is a guy that I think he's a pretty solid athlete for a tackle. Okay, he moves well. And again, just like everyone else that's coming in this class on the offensive line, he's a dog. Okay, you can tell that he plays that bully ball, likes to push people around. I think he is going to have to work on some fundamental things, and he probably is going to have to maybe get a little bit stronger, maybe a little bit quicker with his footwork, things like that. We'll see how his game can translate to SEC ball, but he strikes me as a guy that's going to be able to pick that up relatively quickly. And I think that in 25 and 26, he's going to be a guy that's pushing for, maybe a starting position or, maybe like a backup, but he will get some good playing time, and I think he's a very solid piece for Tennessee. P, what are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Well, I like his film a lot. Like I said, very aggressive, nasty football player. Can never have enough of those guys on your roster, especially on the O-line. I think he's I hate to call him a prototypical backup, but he's kind of your prototypical depth piece, man. He's a guy that kind of like we saw with Ollie Lane or, almost maybe like a Dan Davis, a guy that, hey, you're not necessarily want him starting, but you're glad that you got him on your roster in case the starter goes down. Hey, maybe he can surprise me and become more than that. I think he has all the tools to do more than that. We'll see, because I expect our recruiting to elevate. Look at 2025, that whole deal. We're going to get some guys that are coming ready to play probably year one, year two. Will he be able to kind of get past those guys? We'll see. I like his film a lot. Hey, another Tennessee guy. Can't have enough of those nasty type of guys on your roster. So excited about him. Hopefully he can develop and get better under Coach Ellaby.
Absolutely. And, we're looking at this season. We've got so many veterans coming back on the offensive line. But really in 25, the competition should open up pretty significantly. So he will have that opportunity to prove himself. He's just going to have to continue to grind and continue to work. But he does have all the proper, foundational pieces to work himself into the starting rotation, I believe. All right, next guy is Idris Farouk. He's a 5'11" and a half, 185-pound safety from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, Idris is a player that I got to see play live. P, I believe that you was at that game too once they played up against Buford. And I really love his, the way that he looks, right? Like, he looks good in his jersey. Okay, he's got a good, thick frame. And I do think that he could be a really good safety moving forward. We've seen him kind of, play, man-to-man coverage, seen him in zone. He's willing to come up and tackle. He kind of stays out of all the mess. And that Buford versus St. Francis game, it ended up breaking out into a fight at the end of the game, but he was nowhere near. He actually separated himself from all of that foolishness. So you know that he's a leader, and he's going to do the right things on and off the field. I'm really looking forward to seeing if he can, maybe earn a starting spot in 25 and in 26. He's a really good football player, but Pete, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it definitely looks the part, man. It looks good out there in his uniform. Wears it well. Just want to see him do more. Just a couple games I saw him play on ESPN against somebody. Just didn't see him make any plays. Didn't see him run the ball a whole lot. So, is that the scheme or what? What is that? We'll see how he does when he gets coached up a little bit better. But it comes from really good high school. They pumped out a lot of talent. We got a few guys on our roster from that same high school up there in Maryland. So, definitely I'm sure he's been coached well. So we'll see how he develops. I think he's probably at least a year or two away from really contributing. Maybe a special teams guy early on, but we'll see how he develops. Obviously, a lot of upside, but we'll have to wait and see for him.
Yeah, you know what? It's very interesting that you bring up special teams because, I think Coach Eckler obviously is one of the best special teams coaches in the entire country. I don't think that he gets enough media coverage, but, our special teams has been phenomenal since he's been here. And I just think that it will continue to get better and better and better because usually the younger guys that come in, especially more the linebacker / secondary types of bodies, you'll see them starting off playing special teams. And I think that the more athletic that we get there, the better our special teams will continue to be. So I think that he most definitely will help the team out a lot in that category as a true freshman. But like you said, P, probably, as a sophomore and as a junior, second, third year, we should see him being able to fight for some playing time somewhere on the football field. All right, and the last guy is Gage Ginther, 6'6", 287 pounds. He's listed as an interior offensive lineman. He's from Fossil Ridge High School in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I think that he could play anywhere on the offensive line as well. That's something that we're seeing a whole lot with pretty much everybody that we get. We're getting a whole lot of versatile guys, especially on the offensive line, though. And he's got really good form. Again, he's nasty. He's a dog. Okay, he's a freaking bully, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that he has a very good opportunity, maybe not necessarily this season, okay? It really all depends on how much weight he's gained, how much stronger he's gotten, what do his fundamentals look like once he gets on campus? And I don't think he's coming in the spring. I think he's not coming in until the fall. So that won't help his case. But I do think in 25 and in 26, he could be a guy that wherever we have a pressing need at, we're going to see Gage Ginther probably plugged in there. And staff is going to try to make him into a starter. But Pete, what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, man. I echo those same sentiments. I'm kind of shocked that he's our lowest rated guy. That's not signed yet. I mean, to me, you watch his film. I mean, he's probably behind Satterwhite. I probably like him second most out of his class on the O-line, even more than Bennett Warren, those guys, Max Holden. I really like this guy's film. Now, I'm assuming his level of competition is really poor, but I just still like the way he plays, like the way he bullies, like the way he looks. He looks really good doing everything he's doing. I mean, just like everything about the kid. Now, again, we already know a lot of these O-linemen, true freshmen, probably going to play. But I think he'll be ready to kind of work in that backup role. Like I said, we'll see how much weight he gains. Like see him up around the 315 mark. About 6'6", 315. I think is a perfect size for him. Inside, outside type of guy. But really like him a whole lot. And I think he'll be a guy in 2025 that's really competing for some playing time for sure.
All right, so next guy is Jordan Ross, 6'5", 233 pounds from Vestavia Hills in Birmingham, Alabama. He's a defensive end. He's a pass rusher. He's a strong side defensive end, whatever you want to call him. I've already raved a whole lot about Jordan Ross. I don't know if I can do it enough, but he's a guy that, as a true freshman, he will contribute to this team. I think he's going to make plays and sacks as a true freshman. He's a very, very special talent, and he's only going to continue to get better. I listened to a couple of the analysts talking about him. They said, hey, as a junior, he only had 2 sacks, but Tennessee went on ahead and offered him because they saw the upside there. And then as a senior, he comes back and has 12 sacks, and, his ratings go all the way up. He's actually rated as the #1 pass rusher, I believe, on several sites, and for good reason, but we called that out earlier on. P, what are your thoughts on Jordan Ross?
Oh, yeah, love Jordan Ross, probably my favorite player from this whole class. The most immediate impact guy probably in this entire class. We've said this before, steps on campus is already probably number 2 behind James Pierce as far as edge rushers go. Special talent, future top 10 type draft pick. I mean, this guy's all the tools. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, he's physical, he's smart, he's athletic. I mean, he's nasty, he's the whole deal. This kid's a total package. I will be shocked if he does not contribute this season and put up some numbers. I mean, put up, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sacks. I would not be surprised at all. I mean, I think he's that type of talent. So could not be more excited about him. And I think, in about 3-4 years, whenever he's about done, I think we'll be saying he's even better than James Pierce. And James Pierce has a whole other step he's about to take this season. I think Ross can even supersede that. So super excited about him.
Next guy is Bennett Warren, 6'8", 324-pounder out of Fort Bend Christian Academy in Sugar Land, Texas. And Bennett Warren is a prototype body for an offensive tackle. That's what he plays. I don't see him playing anywhere else. Okay, he will probably be the only exception, for the offensive line that he pretty much just is a tackle. But really, if you think about it, at the same time, maybe he even could play guard. We'll see. But he's really, really big. I think he's got a lot of things to work on from a fundamental perspective. I think that he has to kind of recreate his body just a taste, but he'll be able to do that once he gets on campus. He's another player that's not coming in the spring, but it would benefit him and the team if he could have. But he's going to be coming in the fall, and we'll see, how quickly he can get acclimated to playing SEC football. But at some point, he's going to be a, top first round type of a draft pick just because of his stature. He's a big man, and once he figures out how to play tackle on this level, everyone's going to want to draft Bennett Warren. But P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Bennett Warren, 6'8", 330, like him a whole lot, man. I think he just needs some time to develop, get in the weight room, Coach Ellaby, coach him up, that whole deal. But I think long-term, give him, 2-3 years in that weight room, you will see him continue to, like you said, work his way into that first-round type draft pick because he does have all the tools. Just a matter of time. He'll need time to develop, but I'm confident he'll get there. Coach Ellaby, Coach Heupel, the strength staff. So definitely excited about him, but I do think he is about a year or 2 away from contributing.
Next player is Caleb Beasley, listed as 6 feet tall, 185 pounds. He's a cornerback out of Lipscomb Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. And he's another one that I've talked a whole lot about. You love his fundamentals. He's the son of a coach, and you can tell by the way that he plays the game. He got a whole lot of interceptions. The ball just seems to find him. It's something that you can't quite quantify, out of these high school players. And I think that he'll get a whole lot of interceptions on the college level. I think he's going to be a great playmaker for Tennessee moving forward. But P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I like him a whole lot. He's already a pretty physical guy in terms of his size. I mean, he's close to 200 pounds already. Might maybe even bigger than that by now. Who knows? But I like him a lot. Has really good feet. He kind of has that pigeon-toed walk to him, which is typically a sign of a really good athlete. The guy can change direction. So there are a lot of things you like about him. Now we watched him in the Under Armour game, the one-on-ones. We see him getting beat a lot. I think we talked about this already before on here as well, but that was a lot more kind of some technical aspects. Just, he was basically playing press man, but was not getting his hands on the receiver at all, which you're playing against, elite wide receivers and you're pretty much starting even with him, but you're facing the opposite direction. I mean, you're going to lose out every time if you don't get your hands on him. And so I think with coaching, he'll continue to get better. And another guy, I would not be surprised if he factors in as a true freshman just because of how physically ready he is and how smart he is, especially his dad being a coach, like you said. I think he could factor in and he could play probably any position, safety, star, corner, could do it all. So like him a lot, definitely has a bright future with Tennessee.
Next guy is Edwin Spillman, listed at 6'2", 214 pounds. He's a linebacker also from Lipscomb Academy, just like Caleb Beasley. And I really love his film. I think he's a dog. He's a prototype Mike linebacker. P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I love Evan Spillman's film. Very hard-nosed guy, physical, nose for the football. Want to see him to get faster, more athletic, but you can't coach his tenacity and the way he plays the game. I think he's a prototypical leader, that Mike leader type guy. Give him a couple years to really get his feet up under him, get used to the speed of college football, that whole deal. He's going to be probably a household name, and I think he has a chance to be one of the all-time greats to come through here just because his demeanor, the way he plays. He's going to be a fan favorite for sure.
Next guy is Jordan Burns, listed at about 6'2", 220 pounds. He's a linebacker from Pace Academy in Atlanta, Georgia, and we really liked his film. I think he's a lot more of a outside linebacker versus Edwin Spillman, who is more of a Mike. But I think he could play Mike as well. Just like I kind of think that Edwin, at some point could play outside if need be. But P, what are your thoughts on Jordan Burns?
Man, I like Jordan Burns a lot. Very smooth athlete. Doesn't even like he's trying hard on film, which is how smooth he is. But big. I mean, he's at least 220. He looks really good out there. Very smooth, physical, nose for the ball. Like you said, like him on the outside, he can rush the passer. Very natural rush up the passer as well. I like him a lot, man. I think his upside is as high as anyone in this whole class. So, we'll kind of see how he develops. We'll see, what his mental acumen's like, that whole deal, how well he can pick up the playbook, that stuff. Probably give him about a year or two to really get his feet up under him and understand what he's doing. And he's going to be a real force there in the middle with Spillman.
Next player is Cole Harrison, 6'6", 220 pound tight end out of Junipero Serra. I don't know if I'm saying that right at all, but that's in San Mateo, California. Now, obviously, he was a huge piece for us to get in this class because we were so short-handed at the tight end position. And now moving forward, at least we've got some options. A true tight end player instead of having to move all these guys that aren't really tight ends and trying to make them into tight ends. I really like his film, okay? I think he's very underrated. You can tell that he comes from a great program, very well coached. He runs great routes. He blocks well, catches with his hands. And I think that he's a little bit faster than some people might think. I can't wait to see what he does once he gets on campus, gets into the college weight room. I think that he's a guy that as a sophomore, we could throw him out there and he could be a really good playmaker for us. But really in his, I guess that would be his junior season, he would probably be, I'm thinking he could potentially be one of the better tight ends in this entire league. P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I agree, man. You said a mouthful. I think look at him being 6'6", 220 right now. You figure he'll, by the time he's a sophomore, junior, he'll gain 20, 30 pounds. You're talking about 6'6", 250 type guy, athletic, probably a much better blocker by then. I think he really does have potential to be a really, really, underrated pickup for us, kind of a diamond in the rough that we kind of threw something at the wall and ended up sticking. I mean, he ends up being, I think he'll be a guy for us. So I'm really excited about him. He'll need some time to develop. Coach Ablin, that whole staff, Heupel, that whole bunch, they'll get him right. He'll be ready to go. And I think he has a bright future for us as well.
All right, next player is Jeremiah Hurd, 6'7", 305 pound, offensive or defensive lineman from Model 9 through 12 High School in Rome, Georgia. All right, now this is a school that living in Georgia I've absolutely never heard of until Jeremiah Hurd. And we can't really see a whole lot of his football film, but watching him as a basketball player, you can tell he's a huge, huge guy. He's got really good footwork. He's a good athlete. I think that he really would be a much better offensive tackle than a defensive lineman. But from what I've heard from the insiders, it sounds like he's going to get a first look on the defensive side of the football. But Pete, what are your thoughts about Jeremiah Hurd?
Like him a lot, man. Has a lot of upside. I mean, we haven't really seen him, but just the way he looks, you like him a lot. Like I said, very athletic in his basketball film. Yeah, I agree. I like him better offensive tackle, but we'll see if he can maybe do something on the defensive side with Coach Gardner. But probably one of my most anticipated players in this whole class. Want to see how he develops, who he can turn to, because I think he has really really high potential. Maybe even up there for Jordan Ross type guy, just in terms of his potential that he could possibly have. So very excited about him.
Next guy is Carson Gentle, 6'3", 245-pound defensive lineman from McCallie School in Chattanooga, Tennessee. All right, so Carson Gentle is another one of those strong side defensive end types. Okay, he shows good burst off of the ball, plays with a really high motor. He's a strong kid. I think that he's probably going to take maybe like a year or two to get ready to play SEC football, just because I don't know if he's the caliber of athlete that you would need to be able to play on this level just yet, but he can get there, right? So again, he's got that foundation for us to kind of build on. And we'll see how things kind of trend with him. He's a high school wrestler. I've seen some of his film. You can tell that he knows all about leverage. So that's definitely going to help you. That always helps playing football. But P, what are your thoughts on Carson Gentle?
Yeah, man, I love Carson Gentle. I think he was the first commit for this class. Stay commit the whole time. I think he was the first one to send in his signed paperwork as well. Like whatever time it was, 8 o'clock, he sent in at 8:01. You know what I mean? Like he's sending in. So really, really like him, man. Seems like a hard nosed guy. Gonna bust his freaking tail. And I think that's where he makes up for maybe a little bit where he lacks athletically. He makes up for it with his hard nose, his tenacity. So I think he's a guy. Give him a couple years. He sticks around. He'll be here. He'll probably be a fifth, sixth, 7th-year type guy. But he'll stick around. He'll be one of the fan favorites. And I think he's going to make some plays for his career's over with.
Next guy is Jamal Wallace. He's a 6'2", 302-pound defensive lineman from Sierra College in Rocklin, California. So Jamal is a JUCO guy, and he actually, I believe, started off playing football at like wide receiver and safety. He was a skill position guy. He said he gained a whole lot of weight during COVID. So he does kind of have that bigger body with that fast twitch, right, with that quick twitch that Coach Garner absolutely loves. I think that he's a defensive tackle. Some people have been talking about him playing strong side defensive end. For me, he would have to lose probably 20 or 30 pounds for that to work. But if you put him in at tackle, his upside is tremendous. So, P, what are your thoughts on Jamal Wallace?
Yeah, I agree, man. I like him better on the inside. Just listening to him talk, I think he said his playing weight, he likes to be around 275. So to me, that makes me think he is trying to play that strong side DN. But I mean, we'll see. I like him, being about 310, being the inside, and kind of trying to keep that quickness and being a depth piece. But again, he's a guy similar to Jackson Moy. We'll see more of him probably in 2025 than we will 24. But a solid pickup, a good kid. He has his own YouTube channel. Has a big personality. So I think he'll be a fan favorite as well.
Absolutely. So that's going to be it for the class of 2024. Thank y'all for sticking all the way to the end. And, we hope that y'all enjoyed it. Please let us know y'all's thoughts about our players in this class because we would love to hear them. And, again, we think that makes for a great conversation. And, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks. Peace.